Welcome everybody to the 5 p.m. special meeting of the Board of Selectmen and Police Commission. My name is Carl Fortuna. I'm First Selectman, and I'm happy to see many people have heeded the instructions to watch this via Zoom. This is the presentation of the Police Executive Research Forum report, as you see on the screen. This is going to be presentation only tonight. Everybody received the draft or the report in its final form yesterday. So I think it's appropriate for certainly the Police Commission and the Board of Selectmen to digest it. This is the first time the Police Commission is seeing that report, and I know at some point you may address that. But I don't want to go on and on at all. We have Scott Giegerich and Matt Pugliese here from the Board of Selectmen, and we'll watch the presentation tonight from PERF.
Yeah, all the members of the Police Commission.
And at this point, Chairman Wilcox, if there's anything you want to say.
I just wanted to echo one thought. The final section of the, not final section, final step in the PERF contract reads as follows. Final report. PERF will submit a final report in electronic format incorporating necessary changes and edits provided by the town of Old Saybrook and OSPD. That's the police department. PERF will also present the report in person at a joint public meeting of the town of Old Saybrook Board of Selectmen and Old Saybrook Police Commission. This is that meeting. As is evident from our agreed agenda, we have this brief introduction. We skip right to the presentation, and after the presentation, we skip to adjournment. What I wanted to add to the remarks from Carl is that—
Wait, Chuck, can we do the pledge first? No?
Yeah, this is the introduction.
Okay.
What I wanted to add to the introduction is that promptly upon the conclusion of our immediate priority, which is the 25-26 budget, the Police Commission will be turning to the PERF report and its recommendations. At that point, we welcome hearing from everybody with your comments, your thoughts, your suggestions. You can either use our town oldsaybrook.gov email, or you can come to our meetings in person or remotely. And during the public comment section on our meetings dealing with the PERF report, we invite your comments and thoughts. Thank you.
So with that, Tom Wilson and your team, I'm happy to turn it over to you. There, we want to give you appropriate amount of time to go through what you want to go through and what you want to address. So why don't we turn it right over to you?
Very good. Chuck, you're going to start?
Yes. Well, I'm Chuck Wexler. I'm the Executive Director of the Police Executive Research Forum. We're here in Washington, D.C. I will be introducing my colleagues in a second. First of all, I wanted to express our appreciation to the town, to the citizens. It's very rare that we work in a town or city where the entire town had to vote as to whether or not we would be hired. That's very unusual. So when that came to our attention, I thought to myself, we need to do a good job here. This town depends upon us. And our job was to do the best we could to tell the story. And my folks will do that in a second. But let me just tell you a little bit about us. We've been around for almost 50 years. We're a nonprofit organization. We do a lot of work in policing over the years. We've written guidelines on use of force. We've written a lot of work for the Justice Department. We've written guidelines on tasers, on body-worn cameras. We've probably done in excess of 250 studies across the country and around the world. But each study is independent of the others. And as this one is, we do a lot of work, as I say, with the Justice Department. We've put out publications, for example, about 3 weeks ago, we put out a publication on restraints, on how police can use restraints, how they need to think about that in a very clear fashion. We've done that. And we have a senior management institute for police where every summer we put about 400 people, prospective police chiefs. We operate as a think tank. We try to call it as we see it. We have developed de-escalation training, which is now the state of New Jersey requires it. Police departments, Chicago, Phoenix, Minneapolis, many departments have done it. It has been proven to reduce use of force. I tell you all of those things simply to say, you know, we take what we do seriously, but every city, every town is different, and Old Saybrook is different. It's a good place. My folks, one thing that we walked away from is we said, this is a really great place to live, great place to work, and we appreciate all the cooperation we got. So I wanted to say that at the beginning, and then I want to introduce my folks to present the report, and then I'll come back at the end for the conclusion. Tom Wilson is the director of our management group. He has over 20 years of policing experience. He's probably worked on 100 of these management studies. Jen Summers comes to us. We're very fortunate to get her. She was a prosecutor in New York, worked in the Attorney General's office, and has considerable experience in terms of looking at things from a prosecutor's standpoint. Martin Bartness comes to us having a master's degree and working in the Baltimore Police Department. Nancy Deming, who worked on this project with Martin, worked in the Montgomery County Police Department. Caleb Regan is an assistant who really did a great job behind the scenes. So that's our team. What we're going to do is I'm going to let each person kind of present the findings. And as the chairman said at the beginning, this is what we're doing here today, is presenting our findings of the report and allowing you to digest it. And I know you've just gotten it. So this is a summary of the key points that we think are in the report. And we look forward to further discussions after you've had a chance to read it with the commission and the selectmen. So with that, I give you Tom Wilson.
Thanks, Chuck. So first, let me thank all who are attending the presentation and wanting to be engaged. These are complex issues, and we're going to hopefully go through a number of these issues with you tonight. So we're going to go through many of the findings and the recommendations. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we were asked to do, how we did it, so describe our methodology, talk a little bit about the timeline for the project, and talk a little bit about the review process of the draft report, because I think all of that's important. You know, these issues are, many of them are sensitive. They're multifaceted issues. You know, our recommendations touch on a variety of things, from potentially collective bargaining matters to contract issues. And we can never forget that, you know, much of what we learned was from individuals who were willing to share their thoughts and opinions. And these are all on matters that we think are important to what we found to be a very close-knit community. So we believe that providing the town with the draft report, asking for comments, requesting follow-up, we made additional corrections and clarifications where appropriate or necessary. And we believe that the report does a very good job of addressing many questions and concerns when you have time to thoroughly review it. And we wanted to make sure that the presentation tonight is thoughtful and respectful in that manner. So let me get started with talking about the background a little bit. So this started in late 2023. I received a call from First Selectman Fortuna asking about did we do such studies, such organization reviews. After we talked about that, I was asked to provide a proposal. And as Chuck said, this went to a vote, a referendum, and the majority of voters and Old Saybrook chose to move forward with this. And we learned that this has been a discussion for Old Saybrook, maybe going back as much as 2016, about conducting some type of study or review. And so we appreciate the opportunity to be selected in January 2024. Let me walk you through briefly what we were asked to do. So one of the key things was to talk about the staffing challenges that the Old Saybrook Police Department was faced with over the last few years. We were asked to conduct a number of interviews. I'll go into a little more detail on that. We were asked to review the department's pay and benefits, to look at recruitment, hiring, retention. We looked at promotional process. And we looked at the organizational culture within the agency. We also wanted to gather community input. Now I'll share a little bit how we did that. At the end of the day, the important question that was posed to me was, we need to identify why are officers leaving the Old Saybrook Police Department? Why would they go to other law enforcement agencies, or why may some get out of policing altogether? So let me get into the methodology a bit. Pay and benefits. And Martin Bartness, who was the senior principal on this, the senior and the most, he was our forward investigator on this. Martin will go into the details of the pay and benefits and where we got them from. You know, a lot of that was obtained from the town. Chief Sparrow provided us with ideas that we followed up on. We then conducted over 70 individual interviews. Some of those were in person when we were there on site in May. Some of those were virtual, but we talked to the selectmen. We talked to current and former members of the police commission. We talked to current and former Old Saybrook Police Department members. And this included full-time and per diem police officers and dispatchers. We talked to current and former town officials and business leaders. And then we appreciated Chief Sparrow providing us with about 10 individuals to speak with, and we were able to make contact and talk with 9 of those folks. We also wanted to give an opportunity for the community to reach out and share their thoughts. And the way we did that is by creating an email address that the community could send their input to, and the town assisted by getting that information out through a variety of means, press releases, getting it out to the media, et cetera. And we received about 37 responses by email that we talk about in the report. So that's how we were able to gather a little bit of information as well from the community who were interested in reaching out to us. Chief Sparrow made a very easy job for us to look at town policies and reports and so forth. So any material that the police department had, he was able to provide that. He gave us a mechanism to do that. And that certainly made our life easier than scrambling around and trying to put together different documents from different areas. So we much appreciate that. And we had the opportunity to review some of the police commission meetings. So we were involved in that process as well. So real quick, the broader project timeline, 2024, you selected us to do this. March 2024, by the time we were able to fine tune a contract and kick off, that was about March of last year. And we worked on this pretty much from April to October, where we did interviews. Like I said, May 2024, we were on site. We did a lot of data analysis, and then we started the report writing process. You can see the length and the depth of the report. So that was a lengthy task. Broadly speaking, in November 2024, we sent the draft report to the town. And over the last November, December, the report was reviewed, review period, we got input back. I'll go into a little more detail on that. And then here we are tonight delivering that final report. And yesterday we submitted that report to you guys. So just a little more info on the report review process, because sometimes this is important. You know, it's important to us that we get you this information and you have the opportunity to give us feedback. So we delivered that to the town. We did get feedback on the first feedback on November 26th. Chief Sparrow delivered us about 27 pages or so of responses to some of the matters in the report. And based on that, we then sent back a number of questions, just try to get some further clarification, get some additional documents, et cetera. And we did that, sent that back to the town. About December 17th, Chief Sparrow got us back this additional information. So it was about 44 pages of additional information for us to review. We then went through that material, completed the report, submitted it yesterday to the town, and that is where we are today. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen Summers, and she'll talk a little bit about some procedural issues that we ran into. Go ahead, Jen.
Thanks, Tom. Before getting into the substance of our findings, we wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about some of the challenges that we faced during the course of this management study. As Chuck mentioned, PERF has conducted many management studies over the years in excess of 250. And it would not be an exaggeration to say that this one was uniquely challenging for many reasons, some of which I will speak briefly on here. First and foremost, there were confidentiality concerns that we had never before experienced. Our people needed to spend an excessive amount of time reassuring people that their words would be kept confidential, and we just simply do not, in the normal course of our business, encounter that type of reticence to speak in our management studies. So that was something that was very unique and very challenging. Second, contract negotiations seem to have been used as a bit of a cudgel, with some old Saybrook Police Department officers indicating that they had been told by leadership that talking to PERF would somehow interfere with the collective bargaining process. So that presented yet another barrier that our people needed to overcome. Third, the scheduling of interviews. Now, this is something that is normally agencies make very seamless and as smooth as possible for our people, but in this case was made needlessly difficult and challenging at every step. And finally, the location of the interviews, which for reasons that are specified in the report, needed to be held off-site. This was the first time that anyone at PERF could recall this ever happening. So that's just a very brief summary of the challenges that our people faced as they endeavored to get their work done on this project. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Martin Bartness, who was the primary principal who worked on this project. Martin?
Thank you, Jen, and good evening, everyone. I want to begin by saying I had the good fortune of visiting Old Saybrook in May with a couple of the team members, Tom and Nancy, and wanted to share with everyone what an enjoyable experience it was, what a beautiful town you have. And my greatest takeaway was how impressed I was with both the current and former men and women who have made, in some cases, full careers with the Old Saybrook Police Department, and others who have served for shorter periods of time. But I walked away being a retired police commander myself, having felt I would be lucky to have any one of those officers working in my command. So I just wanted to share that with all of you, and in the context of all of our finding and recommendations, know that you have an extraordinary foundation for an outstanding police department that you can be proud of. As mentioned, pay and benefits, we're going to talk about organizational culture. As a preamble to that, I want to set the stage a little bit and discuss the agency's staffing, which is in many ways what gave rise to this study. Staffing in Old Saybrook, as you well know, has waxed and waned for years. As this particular chart shows, between 2015 and 2023, the department hired 43 officers and 52 separated from the agency. Very concerning period was the 3-year stretch between 2021 and 2023, when 26 officers separated from the department. That is one more than the equivalent of the department's entire full-time staff of 25 officers, and that's extraordinary turnover in a 3-year period. among those 26 officers were 3 who retired, 2 who were terminated, and 21 who resigned. One explanation proffered for the rate of officer turnover in OSPD is pay and benefits. So this became a primary avenue of inquiry for PERF. We examined 2 primary data sets. The first was a police peer group study performed by Milliman, which is the firm the town employed as part of its collective bargaining research as part of the negotiation process with the department's police union. And according to the firm's analysis of 11 retirement plans, OSPD's ranked 4th best, falling only behind the plans in Portland, Stonington, and Groton. The second data set PERF examined was in response to Chief Spear's suggestion to compare Old Saybrook's pay and benefits to 13 other police departments in Connecticut that respond to 911 calls for both police and EMS services. So just like your police officers do in town, these other agencies were recommended because not only are the officers responding to public safety issues, they're also the first responders for EMS calls. And I just want to say what somewhat surprised me as an outsider to Connecticut and a bit of an outsider. This is fairly unusual throughout the United States. Just how proud your officers are that they have this level of training and they provide this quality of service to the residents of Old Saybrook. They take it very seriously. And they're proud of the work that they do. What really stood out for me is that it's an additional way for police officers to establish a positive connection with the community. It's not just enforcement, it's not just public order, but it's life-saving. And that's an extraordinary asset, and was really happy to see the way the officers have taken to it. So again, Chief Sparrow provided 13 agencies for us to consider. We ended up excluding 6 of them because the data weren't readily accessible to us via an online search. But with the agencies that we left, we did find the data on represented in this chart. PERF found the results were pretty similar to the Milliman analysis, and that is Old Saybrook's pay and benefits. They're not the best, they're not the worst, but they are competitive. And in fact, the composite score for Old Saybrook was 4.75. That happens to be equal to the mean of this distribution. So the mean score of the 8 agencies examined was 4.75, and that's where Old Saybrook fell. So in addition to looking at pay and benefits, PERF also reviewed exit interviews with 9 officers who left OSPD, submitted to that exit interview process. What was really interesting to us, it surprised me, was that none of those exiting officers characterized their pay as poor. And in fact, 8 of the 9 indicated their pay was either excellent or good. And that's a pretty strong endorsement of pay and benefits. And it's, in our opinion, in line with the data. And so given these findings, along with the interviews, which we'll talk much more about as our presentation goes along, but along with the interviews, PERF concluded that most officers do not leave OSPD due to pay and benefits. So the other explanation that we were given as for why OSPD officers are leaving the agency is the working environment and organizational culture. And it was really presented to us in 2 perspectives. 2 perspectives about organizational culture emerged. The first, we're calling perspective A, is represented by the police union. And according to its president, the Old Saybrook Police Union has complete confidence in the technical competency and leadership of Chief Spera. His commitment to the town and this department will never be matched. We met with the union's leadership team during our site visit to Old Saybrook in May, and Their comments reflected what President Ryan said in his letter to First Selectman Fortuna. They believe that officers are leaving OSPD because of low pay and benefits, because of the department's very high and exacting performance standards, and because of a paramilitary work environment that may not align with the attitudes, beliefs, and values of the newest generation of police officers. So that was one perspective on the department's organizational culture. Excuse me. The other perspective, perspective B, is represented here briefly by a former OSPD officer who told PERF, I took a $15,000 pay cut to go to East Lyme, but I would have taken a $30,000 pay cut to get out of Old Saybrook. It's a night and day difference to where I work now. I enjoy going to work. Within this perspective, we heard a variety of issues. We'll talk about some more of these in a little bit of more detail when we talk about some of the recommendations we make. But the issues cited in multiple interviews were excessive report writing, overtime burdens, concentration of decision-making authority at the highest ranks of the department, untimely leave approval and publication of the work schedule, a heavy-handed approach to law enforcement, an unfair promotion or administrative appointment process, verbal abuse and intimidation, fear of retaliation, and different standards for leadership and officers. These stories, taken in the context of all the other evidence we gathered and analyzed, including pay and benefits, employee exit interviews, interviews with town officials, interviews with police commissioners, business leaders, and other stakeholders, led PERF to conclude that most officers leave OSPD because of an unpleasant work environment and organizational culture, not its pay and benefits. Jen, back to you.
Thank you, Martin. I'd like to just speak briefly about the police commission. PERF did make some observations about the commission and found it to be comprised of civic-minded residents willing to volunteer their time in an effort to improve the police department and the community, which we found to be commendable. PERF also did note, however, that the commission seems hard-pressed to provide effective oversight of the old Saybrook Police Department and made some recommendations directed at improving that oversight. And I will highlight 4 of them here. First and foremost, we recommend that the town strike from future contracts the requirement that the chief of police, whoever that may be, must agree on the manner in which he or she is evaluated. That provision in the contract is analogous to allowing the student to define the parameters of the student's report card. And if they don't like it, they don't get a report card. So we recommend that that provision be struck at the earliest possible opportunity. That's the first recommendation. We also recommend that the police commission attend ride-alongs with members of the Old Saybrook Police Department to learn about the day-to-day operations of the department. This is a practice that is widely used in many departments, and it's valued by officers and riders alike as a way, it's a learning opportunity and something that we hope that the police commission will avail itself of moving forward. Third, PERF recommends that the police commission start to actually use its investigative authority, or if it determines that it cannot or should not conduct an investigation itself, it should refer complaints of misconduct or malfeasance against the chief to an outside entity so that they are investigated. And finally, we encourage the police commission to seek out professional development opportunities so that it can learn more about its important oversight role relative to the Old Saybrook Police Department as well as its chief of police. Thank you. Martin, back to you.
There we go. Sorry about that pause. I was having difficulty working the mute button. I want to take a little bit of time to unpack some of the report's 31 recommendations. We make 31 for the OSPD, Police Commission, and town to collectively consider. We believe some of them are ready to go. The recommendation, for example, for the department to use the town's electronic payroll system may already be agreed upon and pending implementation. We've had some follow-up discussions with the information exchange with Chief Spera, who indicated those conversations are already underway. That's very encouraging. Some of the recommendations, such as the one to discontinue ordering officers to work overtime on road jobs, those two may already be adopted and should now be audited to verify consistent implementation. And then there are others, such as recommendations to outsource exit interviews and create an MOU with neighboring police departments that are going to require some deliberation to determine the best course of action for the town of Old Saybrook. What I do want to emphasize is that even though some of the recommendations are subject to collective bargaining and they may take some time to bring to fruition, we hope their implementation is considered through a lens of openness and possibility, not cynicism, but openness to what is possible. We believe strongly that the recommendations are in the best interest of the town and of the men and women of OSPD who faithfully serve it. So I'm going to briefly discuss three of the recommendations. The first one is about the exit interview process. It's a widespread practice across industries for a neutral and detached party, such as a human resources manager, to conduct employee exit interviews. However, in the Old Saybrook Police Department, historically, the number 2 ranking officer has conducted the exit interviews. Moving forward, the department should adopt a process that promotes employee candor and reduces fear of intimidation and retaliation by outsourcing exit interviews. This includes prohibiting the practice of interrogating and rebutting employees when they make their statements. Second recommendation PERF makes is related to overtime. Current OSPD policy states that personnel in the department may not work more than 20 hours of any kind within a 24-hour period except in emergency conditions. They must also have a minimum of a consecutive 8-hour rest period between scheduled assignments. The shortcoming of this policy is that it only limits the numbers of hours an employee can work during a 24-hour period. It therefore still permits an officer to work 16 hours a day, which translates to 112 hours per week and 224 hours per pay period. One former officer told PERF that they had worked 21 consecutive days, and many of those days were worked for 12 or 16 hours. This is why it has become a best practice for police departments to place strict limitations on the number of hours employees can work each week. We provide a couple of examples of those agencies in the report. Fairfax County, Virginia, for example, is one of them. They say an employee's work week cannot exceed 120.5 hours, and that's in actually a 2-week period. So it's about 60 hours per week is what they're capped at. The OSPD officer who worked those 21 days in a row would have never been able to do that under such a policy. It is a very employee-centric, wellness-centric policy and practice that we strongly encourage the department to adopt. Another recommendation is to endeavor to work out an MOU with nearby law enforcement agencies. Middletown Police Department, for example, has an MOU with neighboring jurisdictions to share the burden of working private duty overtime assignments. Having such an MOU would likely eliminate the need for OSPD officers to work private duty jobs against their wishes, and importantly, affirm the department's desire to promote a healthy work-life balance. While there are some, we readily acknowledge there are some officers who love to work private duty jobs. Many don't. And so it's having that structure in place that allows those who want to work the overtime to be able to do so is fantastic. It's a bonus for them, but it does not burden those who do not want to work that overtime. In the old Saybrook Police Department, there is an administrative provision that gives the police chief the authority to appoint an employee to the position of detective sergeant without a promotional exam. This provision has been used in the past by the police chief, but not for someone at the rank of sergeant. A formalized testing process, we can't stress this enough, no matter how qualified an employee may be for the role of detective sergeant, is essential for establishing the legitimacy of the promotional process, guarding against allegations of favoritism and violations of civil rights, and protecting the town from liability for failure to test and train its supervisory personnel. Even in circumstances where only one employee meets the eligibility criteria to participate in the promotional process, PERF holds that the department should administer an objective exam process to ensure that everyone who holds a supervisory position demonstrates the requisite knowledge, skills, and abilities. PERF recommends that the police commission lead a conversation with the community to discuss how it would like the police department to promote public order and enforce the law. Police officers have great discretion regarding when to give a verbal or written warning, when to issue a criminal, civil, or traffic citation, and when to make an arrest. Here's how this recommendation was explained in an article published by the Department of Justice's COPS office. And I quote, "By inviting community members to discuss this decision-making process and to co-create law enforcement programs, policies, and strategies with the police officers who will implement them, law enforcement agencies can authentically and organically build with communities the understanding, trust, confidence, respect, and diversity of thought that are requisite ingredients of procedural justice, without which police cannot attain the legitimacy they need to do their jobs effectively." This recommendation is made explicitly to address much of the feedback we heard about, quote, a heavy-handed approach to law enforcement in the town. PERF recommends that the department delegate scheduling authority and leave review more fully than has already been done. Both current and former employees said their requests for leave often go unanswered, even after multiple reminders, until a day or two before their leave is scheduled to begin. This makes it difficult for employees to plan vacations and other time off, causes unnecessary stress, and has a detrimental effect on employee morale. PERF therefore recommends fully delegating scheduling authority to sergeants, master sergeants, and lieutenants. This is a widespread practice within law enforcement agencies to facilitate the timely publication of work schedules and review of leave requests. It also develops the management skills of frontline supervisors and mid-level administrators and allows the chief to spend more time on matters that are unique to an executive's roles and responsibilities. PERF recommends that OSPD consider publishing officers' work schedules every 6 months. This would be a dramatic improvement over the current practice of publishing work schedules 1 month at a time, and could significantly reduce employees' frustrations related to planning their personal time off. It is worth highlighting that publishing work schedules in 6-month increments is permissible under the current contract, which expressly states that the work schedule, quote, will be posted at least 1 calendar month in advance, unquote. PERF recommends the town seek a legal opinion as to whether Chief Sparrow's business relationship with Maverick Motor Group complies with his employment contract and the town's code of ethics. Chief Sparrow holds the title of Chief Administrative Officer for Maverick Motor Group, and his duties with the car dealership do not appear to fall within the purview of his consulting business, which has a stated goal of, quote, improving the quality of pre-hospital emergency medical care to our local communities by providing innovative and exciting training courses for community members and public safety professionals. PERF stresses that police chiefs should avoid conflicts of interest or the appearance of conflicts of interest that can arise by having an independent business relationship with a private entity in the town where they serve. The report identifies several occasions where we think the police commission should have investigated complaints made against the police chief. PERF recommends the police commission investigate any complaints of misconduct or malfeasance against the chief, and if it doesn't feel equipped to do so, outsource those complaints to another entity. Thorough and fair investigations of public complaints against all personnel, regardless of rank, are essential for the commission to establish its legitimacy and fully execute its oversight responsibilities. PERF's research found that some town employees, including the police chief, occasionally work remotely. The town should develop a remote work policy that applies to all Old Saybrook employees. Among other considerations, the policy should include the objectives and purpose of remote work, employee eligibility criteria, clear guidelines for communication, collaboration, and productivity, equipment and office space requirements, protocols for seeking and accepting remote work, provisions for training and support, and employees' legal rights. And the final recommendation I'm going to mention is the town's payroll and purchasing systems, which PERF recommends the commission direct OSPD to adopt as soon as possible. There are numerous benefits to this. First, it goes a long way toward reducing the perception among some of the town's residents and officials that the police department abides by its own set of rules. Second, it aligns the police department with every other agency in town and subjects it to the same systems of oversight and accountability. Third, it provides real-time tracking of employees' work hours, requests for leave, and use of time off, thereby eliminating the department's practice of submitting leave usage once per year on the honor system. And fourth, it saves the department 2 hours of pay each week for a town employee to manually enter payroll. Before I turn the presentation back over to our executive director for concluding remarks, I want to share some of the accomplishments that Chief Sparrow thought were important for PERF to know in its assessment of OSPD's organizational culture. Chief Sparrow listed 18 accomplishments. I'm going to share 6 of them with you. The first, Chief Sparrow facilitates annual strategic planning sessions that allow and encourage direct employee input on everything from policy to projects. Second, staff conduct an open and blind evaluation of Chief Sparrow. We thought this was especially noteworthy given the challenges the police commission has had to complete a performance evaluation. Third, Chief Sparrow says, quote, "Officer safety is unmatched in the area, including the individual issuance of tactical vests, helmets, and goggles." Fourth, Chief Sparrow noted that the amount of assistance he has provided employees is, quote, runs the gamut from, quote, simply listening to actively assisting in resolving a problem to helping with life events such as marriages or the purchase of a first home, unquote. Fifth, Chief Sparrow called attention to the annual department family parties he hosts at his home and solely funds to foster department family togetherness and to demonstrate his appreciation for everyone's hard work and dedication throughout the year. And the sixth accomplishment that Chief Sparrow listed is permitting weekly group shift meals to promote camaraderie. Chuck, back to you, sir. Chuck, you need to unmute.
My apologies. Okay, sorry about that. The question we were asked to answer, the fundamental question was, why do officers leave the department? That was a central question. What we found is that there's scant evidence to support the claim that officers leave the department for better pay and benefits. I mean, that is was the overwhelming conclusion. And that they leave the department because of the unpleasant work environment, that they were willing to go to another agency that may pay less because the benefits of the work environment exceeded that. We thought the commission, there's an opportunity for the commission to provide some additional oversight. We also wanted to say, in terms of the big picture, that the department has a lot of strengths, and we did not want our report to overshadow that. That while the work environment is an issue, nonetheless, we found dedicated, service-oriented officers. We found the relationship with the community is excellent, quality of service is excellent, equipment, facilities, the low crime rate, all of those things make this community great. But the work environment is an issue. There's no question about that. Thank you all for the opportunity. We appreciate it, and we hope you'll study our report, and we look forward to further discussions with the commission and the selectmen. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that. Chuck, you wanna-
I think what I said earlier at the start of the meeting still holds. We want to hear from everybody with their questions and comments, suggestions, criticisms, when we turn to the PERF report.
Yeah, so look, there's recommendations here. It's a long report. You know, we've hired consultants in the past, and not necessarily every recommendation gets tackled and implemented, okay? Some are maybe unrealistic, unachievable, but there may be some ones that can be tackled sooner rather than later, and with the assistance of the chief and the chairman and the police commission and the board of selectmen, we can work towards that. Obviously, it's not meant to sit on a shelf. It's meant to move forward with, and you know, I think there was some concern that this was not going to be an open forum with regard to Q&A. Obviously, I think that would take days to go through with the public. So I think the forum will be either Board of Selectmen meetings as we move forward, police commissions as they move forward, keeping in mind that the police commission has a priority at hand in passing a budget as proposed by the chief of police, who presented the budget to the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, and Police Commission, or did a presentation on Tuesday. And those discussions will be continuing over the course of the next week or so.
Including the 6:30 this evening.
Including tonight. This has been a lengthy process. It's not over. And it's been certainly interesting from a lot of perspectives. I do want to thank the Police Commission for your patience, because I know the Police Commission did not see this report until yesterday. I want to thank the chief for his participation, truly. And his responses to the Police Executive Research Forum, which were detailed and I think very helpful at the end of the day. So I really don't have a lot more to say other than that. Again, the contract for PERF stated that this was a presentation. The community will have much follow-up after this. There's no doubt about that. So the 460 people who are online and the additional 15 to 20 in the audience, it's a very difficult process to take 460 people in a room and listen to their comments one by one. So I think if you have comments, emails to me or to the chairman, to the chief, to the, anybody else, those can be your comments. Comments are typically read at our meetings if they are addressed to us. So I assume the chairman of the Police Commission would do the same. And there'll be opportunity for public comment. I can assure everybody at future meetings. So, but this was not the vehicle to do that. It just wasn't. And so we will move forward with this. And that is all I have. Do either of the selectmen have anything that they would like to add to that?
I certainly appreciate the comprehensive process and the recommendations that were made.
So we're done on our end.
And I know Jessica wants to say something.
One thing, I have, you put it all on us, like we have to deal with this
I
situation.
didn't put anything on you.
Okay. So I guess my only perturb or whatever about this whole thing is the fact that I feel like you said, okay, the police commission now has to decide what to do, but we weren't even allowed to read the draft. We weren't allowed to do a lot of things, and so it's, yes, you did. You did put this on us. Okay.
Thank you. I'm not gonna say anything.
Comes to me. So, my take on this is that by next Wednesday, the 15th, we have to have our budget done. So I think from the 15th, maybe the 15th, I don't know what day. I think we need to start lining up some meetings. There's a lot of stuff in here that I think that may be easily tackled. I mean, the payroll thing, that seems like a no-brainer, switching that over. It just seems like a lot of these things could get knocked off very easily. I know there's a lot more, there's a bigger picture of this that we're gonna have to handle, but I'm eager to get going on this. I think a lot of time and money was spent on this. It's been years in the making, and this is our job. This is what we have to do. I mean, they've told us oversight. I am very disappointed. There's a lot of stuff in here that I've said repeatedly. I really wish we had done exit interviews. I wish we didn't have to get to this point. I wish we could have kept people. But I'm very eager to get started. And I'll take some on. We're the police commission. That's our job.
I'll move to adjourn the Board of Selectmen meeting, same.
Move to adjourn the police
All those in
commission.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you.